decided to do all commercial. You know, the least you can do, the minimum is what they call. Some places make a different requirement, but your plumber that you would have come out would know what the correct one you need for it. But and all that is just, you know, we want to keep safe drinking water in the town of Kentwood, and we're trying to do the best and improve our water system and do what we can. So I just feel it's best, and then trying to keep up with the records, so when they get tested and all that, it'd be a lot easier on our office crew and all that if it's all done within a few months to 30 days. I've heard a lot of that. I know that's been an upset to a lot of people, but in the 30 days, the biggest thing is trying to get a plumber contract, however, with somebody. At least show us you're trying to move forward with it, is what we're trying to do. So that's the biggest thing. And I mean, I'll work with people, you know, individuals going through it, seeing what we can get done, but we're gonna have to move forward. You know, it's just something that's got to be done. It's nothing that town of Kentwood come up with or nothing like that. It's EPA rules, and it has to be done. So, any questions? Anything?
I have Tammy Sheffett and
Yes.
Lloyd Fowler as well that has to be on the agenda.
Okay, I'm really here. May I speak? I'm really here because, you know, receiving the letter it brought up a lot of questions, and I want to be well informed. I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. And if I'm not, please let me know. It's my understanding that this is state mandated, so I understand we have to comply to state mandated laws. All business owners are aware of that. It's also my understanding from watching the meeting with Mr. Buford Elliott that it's the town's discretion to choose who has these devices. And Russ just spoke and said all commercial, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so does that mean no residents are gonna have to comply?
Well, that's gonna be our next step, moving to residential. We starting kind of in a phase. We start with
So the residents are gonna be faced with this as well?
It's a different process, but yes, eventually.
Okay. Are the residents gonna have to pay for these valves and this performance to be done like the businesses are being required to?
It'll be something similar to it, but like I say, it's a kind of a different step. It's not as an expense, near an expense deal for residential.
As it is for commercials?
Yeah, it's
We're
just-
taking the brunt of the,
Well, I mean, it's just a different device, you know, y'all have to have versus.
okay. And this is a question, if it's state mandated, the letters that we received informed us that our services would be cut off if we had not complied to the 30 days. My question is, if it's state mandated, who decides from the town whose water gets cut off? Should the state not be the one in charge of that process?
According to the Louisiana Administrative Code, Chapter 51, Section XII, it says that unless otherwise directed by the state health officer, a water supplier shall disconnect or refuse to connect customers who fail to comply with mandatory containment practices or fail to provide adequate confirmation of such compliance. So according to that, even though it is a state mandate,
The town
the
can
water
come in and do
supplier
that.
itself is the one that has to enforce it.
Okay. Next question that I have, I understand that business people asked Mr. Buford to come in and speak, and I want to know why someone from the Louisiana Rural Water Association was not asked to speak on the matter. Because being a business owner in a small town, when you bring in someone who's going to be doing the work, to me that's giving them an advantage, and it almost feels like a monopoly. That's how I personally have seen it. And I'm here and I'm trying to speak not just for me, but also for others, business people that have came to me with the same, and they feel the same way. So I'm wondering if y'all intend to have a meeting with someone from the Rural Water Association to discuss this?
Mr. David Curtis is here from Curtis Environmental. Can you?
Yeah, so there's a list online, LDH's website. There's a whole slew of people that are approved to install these.
Okay.
So I don't know who Mr. Buford is, so I apologize for that.
Okay.
But there are a lot of people that offer these services that install. I don't
Right,
personally
and that's
do
gonna
them.
bring me to my next question, because I've already ran into this, because I've been calling and getting bids. Suppose I go in as a business owner and I pick someone from this list, they come out, they do this work, I can tell you now, at least $1,000. And after they've done this work, I find out that they're not certified, they're working under someone else's certification, and it's not, they're not legal, although they're on this list. Who is gonna be liable for that extra expense of having that done?
They should be required that they're on that list, ma'am. I don't
Okay.
know. I just know that there's a list. I use it actually for water systems that we use for different people in various areas. I've never ran into that. I don't know who's trying to cheat the system. But a plumber, just like they have a plumber's license, you get certified to be able to do backflow prevention, installation, and testing certification. So
Okay.
there is a process for that.
Okay, and also, I want to go back to something that I had asked Russ earlier. The businesses are going to be required, and we're paying for ours. From what Mr. Buford said, for this to really work as it's supposed to, everyone here in this town will have to have these put on, correct? For it to work as it's supposed to. Are the businesses going to be paying for theirs, and we're going to be out of our money? The residents are going to be paid for by who? Are they paying for their own? Or are we taking an extra markup
It
so
is
they
on
can?
the resident.
They can have a break. So the residents are in Kentwood are going to be faced with the same issue. It's not just going to be the business
Yes.
owners. Let's see. Okay. How many businesses, do y'all know yet, how many businesses are going to be required to have more than one valve? Does anybody know that yet?
I'm sorry.
The larger businesses in town, how many valves are going to be required of the larger businesses?
It's
Is there a
only-
number on
There's
that?
only one at y'all have shut off house?
Yeah.
So it's gonna be.
So each business is only going to have one. Our churches,
The
the
business-
As far as how
co-op.
many services they have, like the
Yeah.
co-op has 3 services, so they got to have 3.
What about our church?
Yeah, they'll have to have one for each service that comes into it, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's a very substantial amount of money. We're not just talking $1,000 or $1,300 here. And I want to know, as a business owner, this all kind of fell into our lap. We didn't know until we received this letter. You know, and the 30-day thing, that was a hard hit, very unexpected for us to be told in that manner. And I would like to know if there's money in the town that is not allocated for anything that could possibly help the business owners so that we don't have to come up with all this. Because, I mean, I'm shocked that within this time frame, I spoke to you, Mayor, about this, that something wasn't set up to where the business people could have been notified by letter that this was something we had to reach because the state is mandating it, while we could not have been assessed an extra $10 on our bill until this was paid for. Because I know some have made the comment, because I did watch the other meeting, where they don't think it's a lot for a business to have to come up with an extra $1,000, but you don't know that unless you're in a small town running a business and trying to make the ends meet.
Amen.
And that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
And thank you.
I have a question on that too. Like, if they decide that they're gonna turn our water off, because the guy I was talking to, they can't do that unless we're a certified letter, is what he said. Do y'all have to present a certified letter? Because
Yep.
that's what he said and he's on the list.
He's on the list.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And that's what he told us.
You have any knowledge of a
And I
certified
can tell
letter?
you, I run 45 water systems in South Louisiana.
Mhm.
Like, if people don't pay their bills, we have the authority to shut people
Oh, yeah,
off.
paying your bills.
But like, you know,
Yeah.
and it's a town's discretion as to, you know, if you're working towards it and you're trying to get it done and you're letting them know, I think that the town would be very willing to work with you. But if you're not even attempting or trying to move forward with it, have a plan to do it, I think then they have the right to move forward. Because again, they are scrutinized by LDH. When LDH comes and audits the water system, that's how a lot of this came about, is that every 2 years, the state does a sanitary survey on the water system. Well, they get deficiencies or, you know, significant deficiencies. Right now, backflow prevention is considered a significant deficiency on a water system. And on significant deficiencies, if you don't fix it, they have the right to give you an administrative order. They can come in and they can do things and fine the city for not following state guidelines. And that's why the city is just working to follow what the state has enacted. This is a very serious thing. I can tell you a lot of communities, I live in Ascension Parish, but our office, our family business is in St. John Parish. St. John Parish has done this parish-wide. They even have, they have it very rigorous. Now, they had some other issues that they had to handle, but everybody is doing this. Hammond, Tangipahoa, it's a requirement. I can tell you in my house, when I purchased my house, it was a newer house in Ascension Parish, the code, they required every person to have the vacuum breakers on every threaded faucet, which is what they're going to require on residences. That is very standard. Any new home that is built throughout pretty much the United States, that is something that is required now. It's plumber's code, it's building code and plumber's code. So that's it's not that somebody's trying to pick on y'all or anything like that. It's what's required by state sanitary code, and the mayor has he is supposed to represent that and to follow it to make sure that everybody here has safe drinking water. That's the ultimate goal. And that really is. It's not trying to pick on anybody or make you spend money. That's what it is.
Okay, can I be recognized? Have a question.
1 second, we have Mr. Miller.
Mayor and Russ, I have a question. It's not going to be popular with a lot of people, but 143 commercial taps are required. That's what y'all call commercial taps. And what's the deadline? Is it still September 10th? To be actively doing it, not have it installed, but have a plumber. Is that correct?
Yes.
September 10th.
Yes.
All right, here's the big question. The next business day after September 10th, are you going to lock out people that aren't progressing? And I'm saying that because right is right, wrong is wrong. Mine's going to be done next week probably. And if I find out that y'all are cutting people slack, Mayor, that's not going to be right. So are you going to start locking out if they are not on a list that you can say they are proactively working?
Yes.
Okay. That's all I need to know.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna follow up a question with that. Because I have been actively working on mine and I have been getting in bids. And as a business owner here, just like any of you would do if you're faced with this situation, you are gonna try to get the best bid that you can, because money in the bank, I'm looking on the other side of this, and this money's coming from my checkbook, okay? And I can tell you, the man that you had spoke here said this could not be accomplished in 30 days. It was impossible. And turning those letters in and having them filled out, I don't want to sign, that calls for a contract. I don't want to sign a contract with anybody until I know who I'm going to hire for this.
You don't have to sign a contract in order to get a bid, do you?
No, I've got several of those. So that was my question.
that is
Is
showing
a
us
bid
that-
enough?
Yes.
Okay.
For so long.
Yes.
Okay. That was my question. You answered it. Thank you.
Anyone else from the audience? Council members, anyone? Councilman Daniel?
So I think what I want to know is, and no, I'm not going to harp on it too long, but I just want to clarify something, okay? And I want it to be reiterated, explicitly clear so everybody here understands. Because there's still, I think, some confusion that we need to clear. Mr. Miller just asked the question. That if other business owners, if he gets his fixed, other business owners don't, he asks you, will their water be disconnected? You say yes.
Correct.
Okay? Ms. Shafford came along and asked you if they have a bid. Will that substitute for that? You said, so I think, once again, as I stated before, these things just need to be clarified.
She's actively seeking someone to do, it may take her time to get the price that she wants. She's actively seeking to take care of the problem. And that is what the state statute is saying. They have to actively seek someone to do the job. If they're not doing anything at all, then we will shut that water off.
So all business owners, I'm very clear with this. So
All commercial business.
All commercial business, for their services to not be interrupted, they need to at least submit the paperwork or bill or quote or something to the town. Is that what you say?
Yes.
Okay.
They will be going to Mr. Russ.
Okay, going to Mr. Rush.
Yes.
Okay. One more thing I want to ask. Now, I heard you mention about the residential part that we kind of have not discussed, kind of similar to this, okay? And you stated tonight that residential customer will be responsible for their own part, you know, when their time comes as well. So you've already made that decision.
I didn't make that decision.
So who?
The state made that decision.
No, I'm talking about as far as the cost. So what
I
you're
don't know
saying?
the cost.
No, Mayor, what I'm saying is, as far as the town helping the residents,
No,
so
I
we're
know.
not going, so the town isn't gonna, it's not even an option, that's what we're saying?
To help the residents.
Correct, well, anybody, period, commercial.
This is on whoever is running water, has the services, that is on the homeowner, just like it is on the business owners.
Okay, now, what I'm saying there, it could be an option. It's not like it can't be, but I'm just clarifying because you stated. So what you're saying is that everybody is, so the town is not going to do anything financially on our end to help. That's what you're saying.
The town is not in that.
Okay, thank you for clarifying, thank you.
I have a question.
1 second. I'm gonna come this way, Mr. Callahan.
Got to kind of cover it. Along with the residential part, they may have a different device than other people do. Some businesses are no more than residential. They have a toilet and a sink.
But that's where the plumber comes in who's certified, and they tell
Right,
you which
but-
type they need.
Okay, so the plumber can actually tell us we don't need that 300 or 400 or whatever 100.
Aren't there
devices.
different check valves that?
So there is a minimum that the town is required to double check.
Mhm.
The plumber's code actually gives you, depending on the type of your business, which I have right here, you're required to have certain more stringent valves depending on the nature of your business. Like an insurance agency isn't gonna be judged the same way as like a car wash is, or a pharmacy, or somebody that does things like that. It varies as to what the actual business entity, the services they provide.
That's kind of my question, Mayor. If some of them shouldn't be required to have the same devices as others. And if we're just using the same device, should it be costing the same for a place that has chemicals and all that they use other than a law office or a beautician or attorney?
That comes with your licensed plumber coming out to say, this is the type that you need for this type.
Because he can actually downgrade the thing. Everybody don't have to get the same
Talking
device.
about the big one that he had here the other week.
Because it's my understanding everybody gets the same device.
The minimum requirements on that.
They make different ones, and the big ones,
I know.
they're different phases of them. They have like one they call an RPZ, and then they have like the double check, and
Yeah, so basically they break it up into categories. It's in the International Plumbing Code that they reference all throughout. They give you different tiers. There's 18 different tiers that require the RPZs, and then they have the pressure breakers for like irrigation systems, and then they have double check assemblies as well. So they kind of break it out in there as to what you're required per business.
And that's on one.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Coming to you, Mr. Quinn.
Mayor, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Miller brought up a great point. The Shaffy brought up a great point, and I'm picking back off Councilman Don. Mr. Miller said he's gonna have his fixed by next week. The Shaffy said a bid. So, to keep down chaos, if they could bring the bid in, how long would that stand? That bid would stand, because the business owners don't need a letter popping up overnight saying, I'm getting ready to turn your water off. And that's gonna be chaos. So we need to put something in black and white saying how long that bid will last them. You see what I'm saying?
Mr. Russ will be handling that, and we'll get together and talk about how long we're giving them once we get their original bid or whichever bid they're gonna use, and we'll go from there. Ms. than me.
So if there's different devices for different types of businesses, then why is this one man giving everybody the same price across the board?
Exactly.
Why has everybody gotta pay $995? Well, I mean, you invited him here and he said
But
that
we
in
did
this
not-
room.
We invited him to speak
Right,
on it, however,
but-
we did not invite him to the
But
town
that's
to go
what he
around.
said.
You are
the
free
price.
to call any licensed plumber on that list.
Yes, and
to
I
get
have.
your- Right.
But my point is, if he's gonna be using different devices at different places, he's just, like, he called me, I didn't call him. He called me, somebody gave him my cell phone number, and he quoted me a price over the phone. The same price he quoted the hardware store and Tammy and everybody else. Everybody got the same price, but now you're saying that it won't all be the same device? So if I'm paying for something this big and they're paying for something this big, or we're both paying $995,
But it just as Ms. Tammy is seeking other bids, you have that same right to do so.
yes.
Once-
And people are giving me bids over the phone without even seeing it.
Correct.
It's a whole mess.
So
From the
I would
beginning.
require them to come out and see my business before I even give them the opportunity to do my work. Mr. Bruce,
So who determines what type of device?
that licensed plumber.
What if this plumber doesn't agree with this plumber?
Mr.
There's gotta be some continuity, right?
Who determines which valve they should have?
The plumber should, based on the need of the business. Now, the town has a minimum.
Quietly.
The town has a minimum double check. And the plumber should use the plumbing code that he's certified on to make any adjustments based on the business. So, for instance, a car wash. A car wash requires an RPZ. Now, the plumber should know, based on his code that he has to follow, that that individual car wash doesn't need a double check, needs an RPZ. Now, those cost different prices depending on who does it. I mean, I don't think there should, I don't know who does just a blanket cost across the board. But, yeah, so I mean, he should know the code based on what they do.
Coming back to you, Ms. Tammy.
Or is that something that Russ could do, go make each business determine? Or do we gotta have a licensed plumber determine that?
Mr. Russ, can you answer that question?
I mean, I guess that doesn't say we.
Yeah, I mean, it says, so like the International
Yeah.
Plumbing Code, like, so know that if you're a commercial entity, at a minimum, you have a double check. Now, if you fall into, and I have a copy of International Plumbing Code right here, if you fall into these different categories that they have listed, like hospitals, funeral homes, car washes, sewage facilities, chemical petroleum processing plants, animal feedlots, meat processing plants, I mean, the list goes on. They say you follow under this category.
So could Russ do that?
Or does it have to be the plumber, does it say in there?
But it has to
I
be
feel
a
bad
master
for Russ
plumber,
doing
not a
it,
regular
though.
plumber.
Plumber's coming there telling me, hey, you gotta have this. Maybe somebody from the town can say, hey, this is what we want, you require for this. I mean, that's just my
Correct.
personal opinion.
I agree. Also, I wanted to make y'all aware, everyone is scrambling, trying to, when you say we're getting bids, it is coming in from phone calls, it is coming in, I haven't been given anything other than a business card with the amount written on the back of it. But I'm working at this hard, I've gotten like 5 estimates. But as far as to say, it comes down to trust too. Because I feel like this is a situation we are being it's a monopoly. We're it's just not a good situation when you feel like you're being forced to do something and you're having to pay this outrageous amount, and there are different specifications, and we're having to trust the very ones that are making the money. And of course, I'm sorry, but when it's about money to a lot of people, and when they're coming to your business, I need to find someone that I can trust to do this. And I'm feeling really pressured about it.
Mr. Dalton?
Mayor, what you said about businesses having different devices just changes everything. Because I'm getting, well, see, everybody's pointing at everybody, and I haven't
But I'm gonna have him
But
reference.
you said the
what he
minimum is the double.
Yes, sir, that is.
Okay, well, that's it. That's what I was quoted on, and I have a toilet and a sink. So that means the funeral home has to have the same thing.
Me?
Everybody. So there's no question. I mean, to ask Russ to go into businesses and inspect and see what chemicals you really are using, is a waste of time. So it's my understanding from the guy I'm using that if the minimum is the double tap, $900, and I'm just gonna speak up for the guy I'm using. A lot of people have been bashing him, and he's watching it right now. He's out of town, he couldn't be here tonight, but he's watching right now. He came in because if he gets the most people in here, he's keeping us at $950. I'm at $950. There's another guy come in to charge another business $1,800, and then went to another one and charged $900. So who's the shyster? This gentleman is certified. He's the top of the list with the state. And to me, I'm not playing games and yellow paging this. Because if it screws up and it's not done right, that plumber will not come back and pay you nothing. You start all over again. So y'all can yellow page all you want, but the gentleman that I'm using is certified top notch. And so now you're saying the double tap is the minimum.
Yes, sir, that's in the town.
And you're saying 143 commercial, and I say 143 commercial taps because you got empty lots with a commercial tap. They have to have it or they disconnect their service. Is that right?
Yes, they're gonna have the commercial businesses.
So there is no question of who gets what and how many. Now the residential side is totally different. See, that's the problem with the businesses. We got to have ours inspected every year for $250. That's why ours is above ground so they can test it. The residentials are gonna get nothing but a check valve down at their valve buried in dirt. They're not gonna get tested. I have a problem with that idea because what if their check valve goes out? I have a well at my house, check valve goes out.
I don't disagree with you. No, I mean,
So-
that's unfortunately, that's the way the code is written.
Right, I agree,
So,
but,
I mean,
but until everyone is on the tap, then you're defeating the purpose of the clean water, and that's not your control. That comes from the federal government down to the state. And I understand they're starting to, the states, the commercial businesses, because in a way, we get it first, because, you know, it's just the way it is, people's cost of doing business. And I didn't ask for this. There's reasons of why it may not have come up 3 years ago, but that's water under the bridge. The mayor has set a deadline, and as far as getting it done, is find you a plumber that is certified. People, be careful, because you'll pay $1,000, and I can tell you about the guy I'm using. If down the road you call him back, the deal's out the window. And I don't blame him. And people talk about they're here to make money, they are here to make money. If we had a tornado and a hurricane, who shows up? Roofers. It's the cost of doing business. So we can't nickel and dime that. I'm not. If another plumber come to me and said $500, no, dude, I'm sticking with my $950. Actually, mine went up $100 because he's got to use a backhoe, trackhoe to dig up mine because of debris. Again, I was like, whatever. As long as he's certified and I don't have to hear about this ever again, then I'm fine. I mean,
Thank you, Mr.
yes.
Dawson. Councilman Cooper.
Okay, I just have a question about this. What it seems like a lot of people's issue is just the plain execution of this whole thing. So for whoever can answer this, whether it's Mr. Curtis, in the administrative code, in section D of the chapter referred to in the letter that we all got sent out, it says, if a water supplier has a reasonable basis to believe that an unprotected or improperly protected crossing connection exists on the premise of any customer not required to comply with mandatory containment practices, the water supplier should take reasonable steps, etc. So when it says customer not required to comply, I have the document from the International Plumbing Code. Is that referring to, and you'd probably find it on yours, to section 608, where it says devices, appliances, yada yada, such as sterilization, distillation, processing, cooling, storage of ice and foods, anything that deals with chemicals you wouldn't want to be leaking into a potable water system, that those shall be served with backflow contamination devices. With that being said, does that mean that for the minimum enforcement of this, that we're only really talking about restaurants, pharmacies, people that deal with harsh chemicals, mortuaries?
I don't think that y'all really have a lot of that in the town.
No, we really don't. So it's not a bunch of businesses that would fall into those categories.
Right, so I mean, that's why the minimum you're doing that now. A car wash, obviously different.
Yeah.
Anybody that has, she just asked me about the beauty parlor. That's not specifically called out in there, but they do deal with, some harsh chemicals with hair treatment and stuff like that. But, that's not called out as something you have to have as a reduced pressure principle. So the state doesn't look at that as a harmful, I guess increased tier as to what's required. So she would be covered under the minimum of the double check.
Okay. Because that's what I think everyone's really figuring out here now. It seemed like everyone needed to get that expensive device, the backflow device, but that is not the case, right?
No, it is not the case.
Okay.
There's some confusion on this, obviously. Everyone needs what?
Yes, because you just brought up that everyone doesn't need the same. Well, if I'm required, I have the double check and that's the minimum, and my bids are falling around $9.95 as the lowest. So I just want to make the council aware of that. Mine's at the minimum, and we're still talking about $9.95.
That's a pretty standard rate. I mean, I can tell you.
That's what I want brought out.
I mean, I can tell you, I use a guy that does my annual reviews and my annual certifications in like Madisonville. Every time he does it, I think he said they were about $250. They're all pretty standard. I mean, I can tell you the services we provide are pretty standardized. I have a pretty standard rate of what are the services I provide, and you know, companies do that. You know, they have to buy materials. There's time associated with it. They have licensure, insurance. There's a lot of things that add up to it that they have to cover having these certifications. I'll tell you, I'm a professional engineer. I have to have $3 million worth of professional liability insurance that I have to pay for. So that's, you have things that you cover in your fees. And I can tell you the rates that I've heard are pretty standard throughout Louisiana. I can tell you, because I work in Tangipahoa, St. Tammany, St. John, Ascension. I mean, I go to a bunch of different ones, and it's all about, it's pretty standardized.
Okay.
So, just kind of piggyback off what Councilman Hookman stated as well. So to clarify the confusion, I think a little bit of it has been cleared up. But once again, going forward, when we're talking about the number of days, notifying the commercial businesses, business owners, the official cutoff date, all these things. And I'm gonna ask you this publicly for a reason. Now, you stated that you're gonna get with Mr. Russ to help decide the rest of these things after the meeting. So do you or do you not want the council to step in, as I asked before? And I'm not gonna tell you how to run your administration. That's fine if you decide that. But do you or do you not? Because I requested a special meeting to sort all of this out, to cease everything, hold a meeting, and sort all this out before we bring it to them. That's what I requested. So if you decide to go that way, that's fine, but we need to let everybody know publicly, because guess what? We have a job to do here too. So if that's how you want to proceed, the public also needs to know that your administration is taking on this task from this day forward.
We're taking on this task.
Thank you, sir.
Last question.
Yes.
So when this discussion just started, it was stated that we were doing all commercial. That was a town level decision to do all commercial. Now with all laws, all statutes, there is a minimum level of enforcement. So the option to do all commercial, all 143, was that done to keep the paperwork of checking them in order or to the minimum?
No, we did it so everybody would be on the same level playing field, because a lot of these sewer pipes that we have, a lot of our water pipes are already kind of compromised, and what we're trying to do is prevent our water source from being contaminated. Once that water source gets contaminated, then there's all kind of mitigation matters you have to go through. So we're trying to keep our water system safe, because they're having a lot of problems in other places. We're fortunate here in this area where we live, we have 3 wells. Not everybody has 3 wells. So we want to protect what we have, and I think it's incumbent upon us to do so.
Good, okay.
Okay. Mr. Floyd, you're here. Did you have anything? Okay. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I have one question, just out of curiosity. How do we determine commercial, by building codes or by the codes that they've got up here? You said how many different classifications we've got?
18.
Mr. Ross.
You said there was like 40-something different classifications or something?
Oh, no, there are, in the state plumbing code at the very back, there's a chart that breaks it down by different type of backflow prevention device. And it gives you, based on the business, it tells you kind of where you're falling.
That's where our plumbers are supposed to know which one we follow.
Yes, sir. Most, I mean, I can
Like
tell
you
you
said
most
here.
that I've used, I don't know who's the plumbers around here. I use Roto-Rooter. I use a few different ones that are in St. Tammany, Ascension Parish. We use a lot of different people. They all pretty much know what's needed, you know, especially for the annual certifications. They all know what's needed on those too. So they should. If they're not, they're not a very good plumber. I'll tell you that.
I do have one more.
One second in the back behind you, had saying,
What about the people that don't have city sewer, like me? I've been down there 25 years and the town didn't provide me city sewer and they couldn't put down a septic tank. That's what I did.
do you have city water?
Have city water. But it don't go back, it can't go back in the sewer system like I was talking about.
But
Go ahead.
your sewer system can cause contamination into the water system. It's not about what's going into the sewer, it's more about protecting the water system, not the city.
Essentially, what the issue is, if the water system loses pressure, then it can cause a backward flow through the water pipes, and it could contaminate the potable water system.
How long have you known about this deficiency?
How long have I known? We got the letter, the first letter, Russ, when was that?
June or July, I believe.
Right. It's just been recent.
To make it simple for everyone, what they're talking about, contaminated water, has nothing to do with sewage. For example, you fill in a swimming pool in the summer, you got your hose down in it, you got the tap on. Down the street, there's a fire, and they hook up to a fire hydrant. Well, it causes a vacuum, you lose pressure. And there's a possibility that your pool water is gonna get sucked back into the city water and could be spread around. It has nothing to do with toilet bowls, it has to do with toilet tanks. Toilet tanks are susceptible to backflow. However, the newer ones have an air gap system, which doesn't have a problem. So for the town to go through, Russ would have to inspect every toilet. And, you know, I really don't want to mess around with this. So it's not the sewage, it's the backflow suction. It's rare as it can be, but they're saying it can happen.
He's right, I mean, and that's what he's right, it's all about the backflow, that's why it's called a backflow prevention device.
So I got 3 meters, only one has a toilet. So does the other 2 not qualify? I mean, can
I don't know what kind of business.
I'm just asking if we're worried about toilets and worried about tanks. I'm just asking for my reason, there's 3 that deal with. So all I have is hose pipes on. That,
Still gotta have 3?
But
Still
again,
have 3?
it's not really necessarily just tied to the sewage or your toilets. He's a co-op,
Yeah.
so like you have gasoline around there, you got diesel. Yeah, you don't have any of that around there?
Not around that.
Okay.
2 of
I
them.
mean, you have a potential for contamination back on either meter. There is a potential.
If you have a faucet that can have a hose hooked to it,
Right.
your potential can.
Correct. You could
And
have
so-
that hose stuck in any trash can or something like that. Not saying that you are gonna do that, but somebody working for you could do that, trying to clean something or something. It's all about preventing any type of backflow into the system to contaminate the water. We don't want what happened in Jackson right now to happen in Kenwood. We want safe drinking water for everybody, right? That's what you want.
That's where I was going with my comment, Mayor, was, Jackson, Mississippi right now, you turn your faucet on, you're getting river water. Because it's backflowing through their system, and it's actually backed up into people's houses. So when you turn the faucet on, you're drinking Pearl River water. It's not going through the treatment plant anymore, because it's backflow through there. So that's the biggest point right there.
Ms. Tanner?
No, I think I've said on it. Good.
Last comment?
I have a question.
What, Ms.
So
Tanner?
how long would it be before the residents have to have this device put in, or whatever, with the water system?
Have they given a deadline on residents yet?
No,
They haven't given us a
I
deadline.
can tell you more like the state, and I'll show you on the sewer side, right? I think a gentleman said back there, he's got a septic tank on his sewer system. As a commercial business, you're required to have a permit for that, okay? People with homes that have individual little septic tanks on their homes they're not required to have a permit. The state looks at commercial entities and residential entities a little bit different. Same thing with LDH. They look at commercial entities a little bit different than they look at residential entities in the same regard. It's like that they always have and they always will. It doesn't make sense, but that's how the state has written the codes in that to target not target, but to focus more on the commercial businesses. And industrial if you have them, industrial, commercial.
Councilman.
Okay, how far does this issue date back again? You said we knew about it in June of this year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I think it dated back to
2015.
Yeah, so since about 15, 16 is when LDH is very much, when they do sanitary surveys every 2 to 3 years, I can tell you I do a lot of them. You're getting significant deficiencies for either not having a backflow prevention plan, which required, not doing the surveys that's required, and not having annual records, which is what the city had, was trying to have annual records for their backflow plan that was already enacted.
And that's usually like an Excel document, so is who has essentially submitted their...
Different people do it different ways, yeah. Some have it Excel, some have list, I mean, depending on what you have available, yes.
Follow-up question to that. So the survey that we had done in April the 29th of 2021, it referred to the groundwater rule, which this is a part of that. Was this covered in that one? And if so, if it was covered in the groundwater rule, why wasn't it brought to attention then instead of August?
Mr. Russ, was this covered in the groundwater rule when they came in April?
After 2021,
Yeah,
I don't know if it was 2021 when they came. Was y'all?
April
I
29th.
wasn't there, we didn't start
Yeah.
until the end. I wanna say they did the sanitary survey
They did.
in 2021.
We
They
didn't get a
referenced
copy
it
of
in
it.
the sanitary survey. They never got an official response on it.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the letter. It was April the 29th of 2021.
Yeah, so I think that's what it was. So they wanted an official response from the town to show that, one, they had a list of people that were required to have it, and if they had the annual records. That was what the significant deficiency, which if the town didn't enact this and move forward with this, the state has the right to give them administrative order. Significant deficiency is a must-have done on your system, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So that is what this was classified as, a significant deficiency. So the town didn't have a choice. They had to enact this.
I just keep getting hung up on the statement, people that were required, but it seems that ship has sailed, essentially.
And that's leading up to my question. My next question was, what happens, it's state mandated, the state comes in to do the checks, and they say the town has not done what it's supposed to do because not everyone's in compliance. What happens at that moment? What is
So
ordered?
typically what happens, every 2 to 3 years, they come and do what's called a sanitary survey. They look at every single well. They look at the storage tanks, O&M records, your daily chlorine residuals, your testing, your monthly bacteria testing, your disinfection byproduct testing. They look at everything across the board of your system. As the result of it, they give you a report. It's called the sanitary survey report. It lists first significant deficiencies, which are required to be done within 90 days of the report, unless you submit a request for an extension, which you can do. They typically give you a max of 6 months, so that would be 9 months total. Now deficiencies, they require you to, it's not necessarily you have to do them, but if you did go to an administrative order, you would be required to do it. So the town has resolved every significant deficiency that they have on the system.
Yes. Okay, Mr.
May
Lee.
I please ask a question? In the future, can you all consider holding a town hall meeting that would really give the people the opportunity to discuss these matters, and the people that's speaking over there, if they would probably put together some PowerPoint presentation that people can see? You know, this is so foreign to so many people in here.
Yes.
And there is no website that anyone can go to look at policies, look at whatever needs to be announced. You know, we keep doing the same thing year after year. And so we're sitting in here, we're listening to this, and I'm learning here and there, but, you know, we need to see some of these because I read things online. And when I see the guidelines, this is the guidelines. And I think that would really alleviate some of these questions and concerns, and people can draw these questions without trying to guess what you're talking about.
Oh.
Right, because this was done backwards. This, you know, exactly what he said at the recreation meeting 2 weeks ago. That should have been done first. That should have been, you even said in your Facebook statement, July 25th. That's the date you gave. Well, there's already been a council meeting since July 25th, and nothing was ever said. Like, I'm not opposed to complying with the state. I'm licensed by the state. I see the fire marshal every year. I see the health department. I see licensing. I know how these things work. But would it have been so hard to send out a letter that said, hey, if you're concerned about this issue, please meet us at City Hall. We're gonna have somebody come talk to us about this and explain what this is to you. Not, you have 30 days or your services will be cut off. Because, and guess what? I didn't even get my letter. My letter got delivered to my husband's business and served to one of his employees. So, I mean, why can't we just communicate? Why can't we just handle things in an open fashion where everybody knows what's going on, so we'll know what we need to do? And if this was known since June, it's now September, we could have had 90 days and maybe everybody would already be done with it. We have 2 buildings we have to pay for, not just one. And maybe that doesn't mean anything to anybody, but that's my budget I have to live off of. I have 4 children. I have one that just started college. I have one with special needs. Okay, maybe none of you care, and that's fine. But that's $2,000 out of my budget in 30 days. Yes, it came from the state. I got that. It could be handled differently. A lot differently.
Yes, ma'am, duly noted.
This issue, to my recollection, we didn't discuss it until the August meeting.
Next item, please.
Item number 4, Xavier Diamond, recreation signage.
All right, so we had a special meeting dealing with recreation, and we heard a lot of the big concerns that people have as far as the activity, things that are going on in our parks. The recreation committee, I believe, met a few months ago, so I actually took what we discussed at our last meeting and compiled those suggestions with the things that we discussed at this previous special meeting. And so I volunteered to take on that task. So Councilman Hookfin, I did include some of those rules from the Recreation Committee report as well into what you all have in front of you today. So I've already supplied everybody with a copy. And so just for the sake of, so the public knows what's going on, Mayor, if it's fine, I'm going to read all of the proposed park rules. And so, we're just putting this in place, to have these things already there. The community would know about it, we'll put it out there. And so once we do get the park, that's, what other park, man? What do we call it down there?
North Tangent.
All right, the North Tangent Park, the park MLK. So once we get these things, back up and going, and we've been talking about the necessary renovations, and all of these things that need to be done. Listen, and I've stated this, Mayor, and I just want to cover it. We are aware of that, and the major issue is not that we don't want to, but we have some funding issues. And so, as I said before, going forward into the future, we need to look at ways to identify other sources of revenue to kind of fund these things, not just sitting and just keep getting by. And also, too, let's try to work on and create some plans, too, to try to alleviate some of the debt, because we know that the reason why we cannot invest in our parks because 75% of that is going back to the repayment of that bond. So we just want people to know that. So we was asked to do this. I took on the task, so I want to go with the park rules, and after I take comments from my council members, and anything need to be changed, I'll be sure to get that done. All right. So Town of Kenwood Parks and Recreation, proposed park rules: parks are open 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. No overnight parking on premises. Be courteous to others. Children under the age of 8 must be accompanied by an adult. The use of playground equipment is at your own risk. Help keep your parks clean by placing all trash and litter in receptacles provided at all Kentwood parks. We talked about that, and we have discussed that, so we're going to be working on making sure our parks have new trash cans. All right. Do not damage or remove any town property. Possession of alcohol beverages prohibited. Only non-glass containers are permissible. Riding of horses or the grazing of any livestock on park property is prohibited. No fuel-powered vehicles such as four-wheelers, dirt bikes, motorcycles, or ATVs of any type are allowed in Kentwood parks. Firearms, explosives, fireworks, and weapons of any type are prohibited in all park areas. Use of fire is prohibited except in grills. All charcoal from grills, grease from fryers, and water with added chemicals or seasonings such as from seafood bars must be taken with you when you leave. Pets must be released at all times. The droppings must be removed. All parks are gated for safety and to prevent vehicles from driving onto turf/grass or in unauthorized areas. No vehicles are allowed outside designated parking spaces. And so these are the rules, and I'll get your input. You know, and although we put these things in place, you know, and Mayor, you're pretty much already aware, not to help on that, you know, continue to talk about the things that need to be fixed. But although we put these rules in place, we just have to be sure that those who are part of daily operation do their part with opening our gate, locking our gate, and make sure that our officers are patrolling the area after hours to ensure that you know, people are doing right by our parks.
Okay. Councilman Hoopin?
Councilman Diamond, I applaud you. This is real good, but I do have a problem with number 4. I think the age of 8 is a bit young.
Yes.
And I think we need to take that up to about 12 or 13.
That's fine.
13 will be fine. That's middle school, 13.
Thanks for bringing this up. This all looks relatively standard.
Yes, sir.
So, thank you.
Okay. Next item.
That's it. Any other recommendation? Good. And so, Mayor, after this, so you want to get with, I'll make the necessary changes that we just mentioned tonight. And then I know you stated last meeting, you already have somebody in mind as well as
Mr. John Daughters, and we talked with North Oaks.
Okay.
All right, so to help us with that.
Item number 5, Terrell Hookfin discussed making Shaw Lane in front of Kentwood High School one-way traffic during specific school hours.
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Mayor, being an employee of Kentwood High School for 20 years now, I've seen a lot of things out in Eldonshaw Lane, and I think we brought this up some time ago, but I want to see if we can get this passed. Make a proposal, Eldonshaw Lane from Avenue F to Avenue G be a one-way during the hours of 7 to 9 in the morning and hours of 2 to 4 in the afternoon. Reason being because you got folk are speeding down there, and then we got the buses turning, and it's just so cluttered in there that during those hours, and we on duty, and we're doing a great job now by getting our bus riders out first, then our car riders out last, but I just think we need to do better. And Chief, I spoke with Chief about it if he's in the hallway, and he can add to it.
And this is during the months of school.
Yes. Chief, if you would piggyback on about the one-way.
Oh, yeah. Of course, me and Mr. Bates had discussed this some time back, and then me and Mr. Hookfan, what we're having is some significant traffic congestion at the front gate of the school, particularly in the morning with the traffic, the parking on both sides, and then the traffic being allowed to go south on Elton Shaw from F to G. So I propose this, that we go from 7 to 9, 2 to 4, northbound only during those times from Avenue F to Avenue G. Avenue E, F to E is not really significant, I mean, because it's not a big congested area there. But with the parking, as a bus driver, sometimes it's hard to come out onto Elton Shaw from the school because of cars going in the opposing direction. So we're just trying to see how we can alleviate some of the traffic.
One question, how many buses take that left and then go down?
All but one.
All
so that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
No, I'm saying
Take the right.
Right.
They take the right going to the red light.
Yeah, that's
one go to the
One goes
left.
to the left.
Only one goes to the left.
Only one goes to the left, everybody else goes to the right, coming out both morning and evening.
So the traffic will go south
Yes.
from
Yes.
Avenue
Toward
F
the
down,
Yes.
and Avenue F to E is both ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Between F and E, it could go either way, but from F to G, just southbound only during the designated times.
They can get that together.
So we'll have to get, I'm sorry.
What about the, ball games? Would it be better, or would it be also feasible to have like a one-way during games?
We manage that as the games dictate, you know, if we have a large crowd, we let them all come out one direction.
You have somebody out
We have
there.
policemen directing traffic at the games, but we're just talking about normal school time when I don't have everybody out to direct.
Councilman Dunn.
I definitely agree with it. So my question is to, the person who made, I think maybe the clerk may can probably give us the most information, on it, you know, I think she's been there quite some time. So what will it take to actually bring this to fruition?
We're gonna need an ordinance.
Ordinance?
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Let me ask a
Sure.
question. In
And
November of 2017, I prepared an ordinance to give the council authority to do this just by a resolution anytime they thought it was needed on any street in town. But I don't know if that ordinance passed, but that would have been in the November 2017 meeting.
We'll research that and look if that has passed, and all we'll need, Councilman Brooks and Councilman Down would be a resolution.
And we'd want to advertise it at the minimum.
Right, so pretty much what we'll just get, I would say some type of drawing or something like that, what it kind of looks like for the advertising, things like that.
If you'd like.
And just for everybody's clarification, this is not a deal to where if you're going the wrong way, we're gonna write you a ticket or anything like that. It's just we'll have somebody out there directing that traffic. Now, if it becomes a problem, a chronic problem, especially with repeat offenders, then we'll take the appropriate enforcement action. But this is just a traffic flow thing. We'll have somebody out there to make the traffic go one way, so it's not like a ticket writing thing or anything like that. It's just to alleviate the
Safety of the children.
Right. And so how would we go about with the signage as well? How would that work? Because I know once we do it, is there anything else, additional process we got to go through?
Well, we can get a couple signs just saying 7 to 9, 2 to 4.
That's why I said no schools.
Next item?
Item number 6 is Antoinette Harrell, grass on the sidewalks.
Yes, again. Thank you, Mayor and Council. I just wrote something I just want to read briefly. My complaint regarding grass clippings in the Kentwood streets has been brought to the council several times before. I rode around this morning, what did I see? During the year of 2019, I was appointed by the Louisiana Governor John Bell Edwards to serve on the statewide independent council to advocate for the rights of people with disabilities. Now, before I talked about the town, the streets being clean, but now I want to talk about from a disability violation. It is illegal to have anything in the street that would really stop anyone from utilizing the street. We do not have sidewalks here. So those streets should be clean of all debris for anyone in a wheelchair, a mobile scooter, a bike, and pedestrian. At this time, I feel that my complaint is falling on deaf ears because I've been here too many times. It is embarrassing to say that such a serious thing is being taken so lightly. People who have I just said that, elected officials and the maintenance departments are responsible for ensuring that all debris is removed from our streets. The safety of myself and others is currently at risk. I hope that my concerns, once again, will not be ignored. As part of my efforts before the council, I have contacted statewide independent living council to speak with them. Would you please pass those out for me? Asking them to let me bring my plight and my concerns before them. I do want to let you know that Louisiana have an advocate and legal rights advocate for people like myself, the Disability Rights of Louisiana. I have contacted them, pro bono legal services. And the least that I would want to say, I don't want to see anyone get hurt or anyone lose their life because of something so minor that may be minor to you. But because you, and even if you walk on wet grass, that can be dangerous for you. My daily concern is not slipping on anything wet with my crutches. What would happen in that case? The town will be liable for any medical expenses, and if anyone passed away because of that, you're responsible for that. Something so minor. Now, I went on the town ordinance page and I saw that, once again, section 38 to 88 says, sweeping litter in the gutter is prohibited. That is wet grass. What can this council do? And I'm hoping that this time you hear me, because I am speaking and asking other people to join me to be a voice for those that is disabled. For those that want to take an evening walk down the street. Not only the homeowners may not even understand that their homeowner's insurance can be liable. The person who's cutting the grass, they can be liable too. And I hope that you all take me serious and do something about this ugly matter. When I first moved to Kentwood, if I would have seen the trash that I see and the litter, I would have never moved to Kentwood, like so many other people. We must do better. We have to do better at keeping the streets clean. Now, some people say, okay, well, what if they just blow it on the side? If you look on the side of the street, now all you see is a brown line because it's just forming where dirt is growing. And so the streets, we don't have a street cleanup person there. We don't have that company here. So I'm asking you to enforce what you have on, and I hope on the statutes already, so that this is a small problem. But why is it so big? Why is it taking so long to say it's against the law to do what you're doing? I know most of the people here are related and friends. You don't want to tell your friends. Tell your friends this is your neighborhood. Not only that, it is bringing down the value of properties here. Now, the same pride we take with football, I want to see you take that pride with cleaning this town. So I'm asking you all, what could you do and what will be done? And this will be my last time speaking to you about this issue here.
We'll start here.
We have sidewalks, yeah, totally not using it. There's all lot of sidewalks in Kentwood, and you can't use a lot overgrown. That's what I think. Hey, I hear you. I agree with you. So, Mayor, I think try to do it right. Do this right this time. Let's get a special meeting together. Let's just look at all of this and see what we need to do to reinforce some of these things that we have on the book. Now, once again, as I want to reiterate, although the council may put it in writing, okay, because we're responsible for the legislation, it is not our job to ensure that these things are enforced. So, what I'm saying, Ms. Harrell, is that at some point, Mayor Bates, we gotta have somebody in our town administration that when these things come up, she can go directly to, because once we put it in writing, now the mayor's office has to hold those necessary people accountable for ensuring that that is done. So like I say, let's meet about it, let's look at the books, and if those are some things that we need to change, but I'm definitely open to being sure that we do our part with being sure that the legislation is there. Now from there, we can't issue some laws that we can't do that. So I think, Mayor, we just gotta be very intentional about this and ensuring that people are doing what they're supposed to do, and we're holding people accountable who are part of our day-to-day operations, who are out every day to ensure that these things are being done.
But is it, if I may ask, is it the towns when a person do not do what they should be doing, but it is in the street, it's not on private property, it's in the street. So where do the town come in to say, okay, I done warned the owner with a letter, but they keep violating what you already have?
Right. And Mayor, just before you go, and I think now, and Mayor, I'm gonna let you speak on that. I have a solution. And once again, we all have solutions, but we have to allow Mayor Bates to be the mayor. And I think there's some things that he can speak on, so I'm gonna just let.
Man, wouldn't that be a police issue?
That's once it comes down to the enforcement of it, it becomes a police matter. As far as, like you said, we can do the legislation, but that becomes a police matter as far as enforcing the ordinance. Councilman Cooper.
In regards to her question, would this issue in any way fall under the constable's duties? Because we do have a constable.
It's considered litter, I think.
If it's considered litter, then it would be upon him to order those citations. So it would be good to have him at the special meeting. I'm going to bounce off what Councilman Diamond said. I think that'd be a good idea. I have spoken briefly because I did hear your issue. I know that you have brought it up before. I have spoken briefly with a street cleaning company or a street cleaning representative from Macomb, Mississippi. So whenever we have the date for that special meeting, I could try to arrange to see if he could be present there, tell us a little bit about what he does and how the implementation could be on that.
Mayor.
And see, that problem is easy to solve, is that whoever's mowing the grass just blow it in for 3 rounds, and then they could go around the other way, and it doesn't get out there in the road. It's an easy problem to solve.
And we have to lead by example. Leave it like that. We have to lead by example. Before we get to lead by example.
Next item.
Just what he said, he's kind of failing what he was saying, Councilman Hookman. But the town needs to be the first one not to put grass in the street. The town workers need to make sure the grass, if it does, they need to blow it, get it back off the street. We police our own neighborhood where I live. We've told everybody, do not put grass in our street. And they don't. Everybody, it's not that hard. But once we get everybody to understand, it shouldn't be a big problem.
So would it be possible to equip our maintenance workers with bags for their...
Mr. Russ.
But they have
Bags to collect them.
Might be too much.
To clean it, you know.
I know, they have to periodically do it with something. You know, there's some way to take care of it.
Each grass crew has their blower.
Okay.
Ms. Gordon.
Yes, sir. Good evening. Yes, Councilman Diamond, it is your job to make the legislation, but it's also your job to enforce it. If the police department is not doing it, then you supposed to enforce it, make sure that it's done. Bring it back to the mayor. Mayor, I see grass on Avenue G, I see grass over here. We need to contact the police department, tell them to give us a citation or something. Maybe a warning first, citation second. I don't know how you go about doing it, but if you ride around this town and you look and you see things, it's your job to bring it in to City Hall, to whoever reported it. You have to report it so the mayor and everybody else will know. I mean, ride around. This town is small, but yet it's big, so you can see what's going on, where it's going on there. You got to get out and you've got to see. Have a look.
Ms. Law.
Chris Harrell, discuss firm relationship with the town.
Reason I asked to be on there tonight, I think about 3 meetings ago I came and I had given an engagement letter to continue doing our services if we do at the end of the year. And I never got it back, and I asked the mayor about it, and I got a letter from the mayor with some questions about the future of my firm. I thought I made it clear when I was up here at that time. I came to Kentwood, of course I've lived here all my life, other than about 5 years after I got out of school. And the people on the council, more or less recruited me to come back here because there was not a CPA, one north of Hammond. And I came here and it's been 45 good years. And so what I've done, I'm 71 now, I've been practicing 50 years. And I had a really good staff, but what's happened in our profession, people are getting out of it. And, it's just tough with personnel. And I basically, after thinking about it, I had a discussion with the mayor. I told him rather than answer, write a response to it, I just wanted to have a discussion with it. And after further consideration, and because of just the demand that we have, I've decided that I'm willing to work with the town and transition to somebody else. Because it's, you know, it's just a tough job, it's a stressful job, and sometimes you just gotta do it, you know. But I mean, I'm here for the town. I look over the 45 years that I'm here was a good investment for them, because we've come a long way, you know, in all different areas. I do have a lot of knowledge that I've learned in the history of the town, which I think is worth something, and I'm willing to share that with you. But basically, you know, what I'm asking is, I think we need to get somebody else to take care of those duties.
We certainly appreciate all of the years of services to the town of Kentwood, and as we spoke, you're instrumental in helping us try to identify someone who could come in and do the work that you've been doing for us for so many years, and we definitely appreciate your service and your benefit to the town. Thank you, Mr. Bruce.
Well, like I said, I'll get with y'all, we'll do whatever it is to make a good transition. Okay?
2 notes, 9/11 falls on a Sunday. We would like to try to hold that commemoration on September the 9th at 12 o'clock out here underneath the flagpole. 9/11 is on a Sunday. We'd like to do it that Friday before to commemorate and remember those who lost their lives during 9/11.
We can't do it on the 8th? I'm just asking.
On the 9th.
Yes, sir.
On the 9th. Anything else?
I have one question related to what Mr. So, Mayor. Now, I hear you saying, that, he says that he's gonna, work with us to find somebody to, replace the job that does me. What is the timeline on? Are you going to get together, meet with him, and come back and report to the council, what we need to do?
He's already given some names, and we're contacting them to see if they can come in. And I think she's from Ponchatoula, and she's done work here before. We're trying to see if she can come and fill in because she knows a little bit about what we're doing. But if that doesn't work out, we can put it out, see if we can get a CPA for it.
So right now, Mr. Bruce, his firm is currently still on our account. Gotcha. That's what so as of today, you and your firm is still on our account for the town?
Yeah, I'm not just walking away, I just want to be responsible, back out.
So there's no definite deadline, that's what you're saying?
But I mean, we're not gonna leave you hanging, but we need a lot of work to be done. And in the last 3 years, it's just been terrible because of what we've been hit with the big resignation, and not only mine, but I mean, I merged with a firm, at the time I had 10 people, they got 150. And to answer the question, I didn't answer the question. In Hammond, we just moved from 3,000 square feet to 5,000 square feet. We've got way more employees than we have. In Kentwood, I'm the youngest one there. And it's very difficult. You have to have people, and I had them, but they've now gone to other jobs or whatever, for whatever reason. And I think it's gonna be tougher and tougher. There's fewer people getting in the county. That's one reason the firm that I'm with, we got offices in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Denham Springs, Hammond, and Kentwood. And, I hope to keep the Kentwood office, that's my intention, but it all depends, And, so I'm glad I've been able to do it this long in Kentwood. And there's still, the problem is, we still got a lot of work in Kentwood, it's just, who's gonna do it?
Once again, thank you. Meeting is adjourned, and don't forget, 9/11 will be observed on Friday,